It's a 75-gallon African cichlid tank, right? Setup is simple. We got about 19 fish in here. There was about 20 fish in here. One fish passed away due to unknown reasons. Process of elimination. Maybe it was weak, maybe it was sick, who knows? But otherwise, there's about 19 fish in here, all doing well. As you can see, these fish are not terrorizing each other. They're chasing each other around. Natural behavior. There's no over aggression. Well stocked, overstocked tank. Always keep my tank overstocked. I always try to put 3 or 4 fish in here at a time. I try to keep my range. Like, for example, you see this fish right there. He started chasing the bluefish, started chasing the other one, and then he just vanished into the crowd and just disappeared. Now, the bluefish forgot who he was chasing. So the aggression is spread out. The tank is doing what it needs to do. I used to have about 9, 10 fish, and you would have just one fish terrorizing one fish all day long. Now, there's so much fish in here that the distraction is like, maximum. You don't really know who to go after because there's so much fish in here. It's like being in a crowd, or an overpopulated jail, you know what I mean? Whereas you don't really know who to pick on because there's so much people versus if you were in a jail, if you were in a jail with a few people, you'll have that one guy who's bullying the same guy all the time versus in a overpopulated prison, you'll have too many inmates to focus on. So I'm not sure why, I chose prison, but maybe I've been watching a lot of prison documentaries, I guess. That's the only, scenario I can think of just to make a comparison between African cichlids. You got to make sure your tank is oversized. And then also, in regards to oversized tank, we got the FX6, the big boy, doing this thing, Fluval FX6. FX6 is attached to a UV light. That's the UV light right there at that big bulky thing at the top. That's the UV light. Got some styrofoam on the side, keeps the noise quality low, less vibration. That's the FX6, the big boy. And then we got the Fluvo 307, the little boy. So what I basically do is like the 307 is concentrated with the 307 has a lot of filtration pads and water clarifying pads and different type of foam pads, whereas the FX6 has a lot of different biological filtration. So it's over filtered, always over filtered. Nothing's wrong with under filtering your tank, but I also like over filtering, making sure I have more than I need. Less work the merrier. This tank is easily maintained. I don't do a lot, everybody's happy. Water changes, I don't even know. It's maybe like a quarter every month, a quarter every 2 months. On top of the tank is populated with plants. There's plants at the top. Each cichlid in here, each fish, their colors are vibrant. They're all males. Colors are vibrant. These guys are doing great. There's one catfish in here. Catfish does his job. Any food that falls in the bottom, the catfish eats, and that's a catfish right there. I've had this catfish for about 1 year. He's a big boy. I'm not sure if you can see it, but he's at least maybe 6 to 7 inches. He's a big boy. Most of these fish that they're between 5 inches, maybe 6. They're doing really well. I don't chase pH up nor chase pH at all. I have just some sand that keeps the pH regulated. A lot of these fish, I always say a lot of these fish, they've never been to no Lake Malawi. They don't even know what that is. Their ancestors never been to Lake Malawi. I don't even think these guys have any ancestors, maybe, I don't know, going back probably maybe at least 100 years. These guys are all captive fish. They breed like crazy. They're all captive fish. All pet store water, quality water. None of these fish knows anything about Lake Malawi. I'm not chasing pH up or chasing pH down. Everything is done, by itself. We got fish here who's at least been here for about 2 years. We got some who are newbies. It's overall, the tank is doing what it needs to do. Very simple to maintain these fish. As long as you keep the tank nicely populated, it's very easy to maintain these fish. You know, where you come up with a problem is if your tank is too small and you have maybe, I would say, probably too much fish. But if you have a nice, decent space and you have a nice amount of fish, your aggression levels would be pretty low. It's not too crazy. Well maintained tank, very simple. And I just love these guys. You know, the African cichlids are beautiful. You know, I used to love Oscars and everything, but just something about these African cichlids, their personalities. They always busy. There's like a whole story going on in the fish tank. You can kind of tell, you know, who's the boss, who's second in command. Everyone has their little story. You know, it's just well done. Also, make sure for African cichlids, you gotta have hiding spots. You know, regardless of territory or whatnot, you gotta have hiding spots. Otherwise, every month or so, you're gonna have a fish dead. These fish do need a place to hide. You know, it's you know there's different fish here, different personality levels. Some more dominant, some more aggressive than others. And you know, sometimes you know you want to cool off, or you know, if you have a bully chasing you around, you kind of want to have a place where you can kind of hide and just you know not have to worry about being picked on all day long. So you know, we got that going on here. Overall, this African cichlid 75-gallon tank is beautiful, and I always try to keep my fish either 20 or under. Never more than that. 20 and under keeps the tank nice and balanced.